Hi, I'm Astria. At my sister-in-law's wedding, my mother took the mic, smiled at the crowd, and said, "She's not married, but she's good for a check." They all laughed. No one paused. Not even my brother, not even the bride. But what hurt more than that moment was realizing it wasn't spontaneous. It had been building for years in the way they left my name off the programs, seated me with the vendors, called me helpful instead of family. They thought I'd stay silent. They thought I'd keep paying. But what happens when the checkbook walks away? And what if the silence fights back? It was just after 8:30 p.m. when my phone lit up with "Mom" across the screen. I was halfway through reviewing a shipment contract on my laptop, a glass of water within reach, the hum of my air purifier filling the silence. Evelyn Bennett never called without a reason, and she especially never called just to say hi. "Sweetheart," she began, all softness, like she was wearing her favorite silk robe again. "We were just talking, and we think it might really mean a lot if you helped a little with the wedding. You know, just a few things, nothing big." I should have asked what we meant. I should have asked what help entailed, but instead I said, "Of course, just tell me what you need." That pause she always does, that polished moment of guilt-wrapped gratitude came right after. "You're always so good at handling these things. Honestly, I don't know what we'd do without you." After we hung up, I stared at the screen a moment too long. The cursor blinked back at me like it knew something I didn't. A line echoed in my head that I didn't dare say aloud. I wasn't invited. I was invoiced. By the end of the week, I had paid the deposit for the florist, confirmed the cake delivery, and wired funds for the invitations. None of these requests came from Nathan Bennett or Madison Cole directly. No, they came from the wedding planner who somehow got my contact info and sent everything with subject lines like, "Final vendor confirmation," "Laurel's approval." She called me Laurel in every message, not Astria, not even Miss Carradine, just Laurel, a name I hadn't gone by since college. Somehow in this wedding, I was being written into a role I hadn't agreed to. A silent donor, not a sister-in-law. I didn't respond to the emails with pushback. I paid quietly. It wasn't new. Years ago, I'd helped cover Nathan Bennett's community college tuition when our parents said they couldn't. Then came the emergency dental bills for Mom, a couple of car repairs for Dad, and the countless just until next Friday loans for Logan Bennett, my younger cousin, who lived like paychecks were optional. And each time I was told, "You're so independent," asked, "You've always been the reliable one." Funny how reliability becomes currency, and I had apparently minted myself into a bank. The wedding planner called again the following Tuesday. "Hi, this is Samantha Reed from Soir Events. Just confirming, will you be handling the restroom layout? We're finalizing the portable luxury units and want to make sure your input is included." I blinked. The what? The guest restrooms? Placement near the cocktail tent? Floral accents? Lighting? Sanitation flow? Evelyn Bennett said, "You're the point of contact." There was a moment of silence. I filled it with a sigh I didn't mean to let out. "Yes, I'll review the layout and get back to you." After I hung up, I stared at the subject line in her follow-up email. "Restroom area. Final approval needed. Laurel, toilet supervisor." That's who I was now. That night, I sat on my couch, feet curled under a throw blanket I'd had since my first apartment. My mind drifted to when I was 15 and stayed home alone for 2 weeks straight, while Evelyn Bennett flew out to help Logan Bennett with a broken leg at college. To my first lease, she never visited, just mailed me a housewarming card with no return address. To the startup I built, which she's never once asked about. "You've always been the one who didn't need much," she used to say, like it was a compliment, like not needing me, not deserving. A few days later, I opened Instagram. Nathan Bennett and Madison Cole had posted a countdown. The big day, June 9th. A picture of them at a wine bar captioned, "Final tasting," followed by a cascade of heart emojis. I hadn't been told, hadn't been tagged. I found out like a stranger scrolling through a feed I wasn't meant to see. The comments were sweet. "So excited for you guys. It'll be the wedding of the season." Claire Bennett must be so proud. I didn't click like. Instead, I opened a new folder on my desktop, named it Wedding contributions. I began collecting receipts, email confirmations, payment statements, not to throw in their faces, just to remember, just to have something real when memory would otherwise be rewritten. There's a Southern saying I once heard from a freight client in Mobile: "The smallest coffins are for the loudest lies." It stayed with me, not because it was morbid, but because it was true. People bury things, and the smaller the truth, the faster they stuff it deep. That weekend I bought a dress, steel blue, elegant, tasteful, something that said, "I'm here, but I didn't ask to be." The kind of dress you wear when you're expected to show up but not be seen. I tried it on in my hallway mirror, adjusted the strap, smoothed the front, turned sideways. "Invisible, but essential," I muttered. "That's always been my role, hasn't it?" I nearly laughed, but then the silence returned, the kind that presses your ribs from the inside. That's when my phone buzzed. It was Vera, a photo, the wedding seating plan. My name was there, table 18, next to the photographer's assistant, and someone listed as "great of Flo's neighbor." No, it couldn't be. The spoon clinked against the empty plate and I didn't look back. Not when Evelyn Bennett smirked, not when the waiter came to clear the table. I gathered my purse slowly, as if savoring the final bite of a meal I never wanted in the first place. Outside the cafe, a breeze slid down the block like it was trying to remind me to keep moving. Back home, I stared at the photo she sent. Table layout printed in floral script. There I was. Table 18, wedged between a photographer's assistant and someone labeled "florist's husband, TBD." I zoomed in. My name wasn't even spelled correctly. Astria. No +1, no designation. It wasn't just a table. It was a message. I wasn't a guest. I was a fixture. I couldn't help flashing back to the wedding invitation itself. It had arrived 2 weeks late, postmarked from a discount printing service. No RSVP card inside. Vera, when I mentioned it over the phone, said, "Oh, sweetheart, we figured you'd be helping backstage anyway." It's more symbolic. Symbolic, like a thank you card never mailed, or a birthday call that comes a day late with a casual, "wasn't sure if you were around." Later that night, I opened my laptop and searched the venue's seating layout. Table 18 was in the back corner, just past the staff service hallway and next to the emergency exit. A perfect location if you needed to duck out unseen, or if you were never meant to be seen at all. Bridal party? No. Mentioned in the program? Also no. Toast. Not asked, not even hinted. I started collecting screenshots again. The program draft from the planner, the seating chart, even the RSVP spreadsheet forwarded to me by accident weeks earlier. All of it went into a folder I labeled "Wedding Facts." Just the facts. Feelings weren't useful in families like mine. Feelings were ammo used by the people who hadn't earned them. 2 days later, Nathan Bennett and Madison Cole posted an Instagram reel. Final seating vibes. It was a drone shot of the venue lawn, names fluttering across each table in animated cursive. I watched it twice. My name didn't float across the screen. There wasn't even a blurred suggestion of me. One cousin commented, "Where's Astria? She's not listed." No one responded. By morning, the comment was gone, but I had the screenshot. A coworker of mine, Olivia Grant from Logistics, forwarded me the PDF program with a cheerful note. "Saw this floating around from someone on Zanea's side. Can't wait to see you speak." I opened the file. Inside was a section called "Those Who Made This Day Possible." Nathan Bennett and Madison Cole next, then Benjamin Scott, family friend and wine sponsor, a florist, a lighting designer, even the bakery consultant got a line. Me? Nothing. Even Benjamin Scott, the wine guy, made the cut. The next day, I asked Mom if she wanted to meet for lunch. Just us, neutral ground, white plains, same bistro we used to visit before Logan Bennett was born. She arrived wearing sunglasses and that beige cardigan that always made her look like a therapist from a daytime soap opera. We made small talk. I let her talk about the caterer, the weather forecast, and how Madison Cole was such a calming presence in the family. Then I said it. "I saw the seating and the program. Was that intentional?" She didn't miss a beat. "You're overthinking it, sweetheart. You don't like being the center of attention anyway." I didn't ask for attention. I asked to not be invisible. She sipped her water. "Don't make this about ego. You know how much Nathan Bennett has on his plate. And Madison Cole is doing her best. Doing her best not to mention me." Evelyn Bennett waved her hand like she was shooing away a fly. "It's a wedding. Not everything has to be fair." I stared at her. "That's the most honest thing you've said all year." She smiled like I'd complimented her and flagged down the waiter for dessert. "They have that creme brulee you love." I declined. She ordered anyway. And then, as I pushed my chair back and picked up my purse, she leaned slightly forward and said with a casual cruelty I'll never forget, "Besides, you're not married, but you're great for a check." That's more helpful than any speech. The spoon clinked against the empty plate as I walked away. I didn't look back. Back home, I hung the dress back up and stepped away like it was radioactive. Steel blue silk, tasteful, paid for, but I couldn't recall the wedding colors. I didn't know if it matched the flowers or the drapes or the ribbons around the chairs. I realized, staring at it in that dim closet light, that I had bought a dress to be invisible in style. I sat down at my desk and opened the folder on my laptop I hadn't touched in days. Family event funds, a graveyard of generosity, file after file, receipts, forwarded invoices, notes from the planner, all addressed to me. Not one email copied Vera, not one thank you outside of a line at the bottom. "Let me know if this needs rooting through you." I scrolled through the spreadsheet. $2,000 to the florist, $3,200 to the caterer, $450 to the stationer for embossed programs that didn't have my name, a deposit for Zenaya's bridal stylist, which Evelyn Bennett framed as a one-time favor when she called me after dinner using her softest, breathe voice, the one she uses before she stings. Then came the post. Madison Cole uploaded a story to her social media. I saw it on mute first. Smiling selfies with Nathan Bennett, the florist holding a bouquet, a caption, "We couldn't have done this without her," followed by a heart and a tag. It wasn't me. She tagged her best friend, the one who'd helped pick napkin colors and made a Pinterest board. Within minutes, comments poured in. "She's amazing. You're lucky to have a friend like her. Wedding fairy godmother." I read every comment twice. Then Nathan Bennett messaged me. "Zinni is so bad with Instagram, LOL. Don't take it personally." I stared at his text, thumb hovering. Finally, I typed, "Noted," sent it, saved the screen recording, archived the story, another piece for the folder. Later that night, I let myself think about the first time I'd paid something for Nathan Bennett. His second semester at community college. After Dad said he needed to learn about consequences, Nathan Bennett hadn't. I'd paid quietly. Just like the time I paid for Dad's new tires after the blowout on the highway, and the time I helped with the mortgage after Mom's knee surgery. They called it just until things settle, and things never did. People get used to bridges they don't have to build, and when they stand on them long enough, they forget someone poured every ounce of concrete to hold them up. A quote I once saved floated into my mind. "When people rely on you too long, you become the infrastructure, not the person." The next morning, I opened the guest list again, the one shared in a Google sheet. Nathan Bennett had given me editing access once, back when I was helping confirm vendors. Scrolling through, I found my name listed as Miss Contribution. Next to venue, Allen, wine sponsor. I blinked. Later, in an email thread forwarded by mistake from the planner, a vendor referred to me as Benjamin Scott's assistant. Benjamin Scott, who provided 3 cases of wine and got a toast in the program. I apparently was his assistant, not the person who funded half the event, not the sister, just another shadow on the spreadsheet. I forwarded the thread to myself, subject line, "Proof of pattern." That evening, I joined a dinner with colleagues from the firm. It was our quarterly client appreciation night. I wore black classic low-key. Midway through the second course, Olivia Grant raised her glass. To Astria, she said, for being the calmest person in every storm. You manage chaos like it owes you money." Everyone laughed. I did too. I sipped my wine and smiled, but the smile didn't stick, because the truth was, when you're trained to carry everything, the weight of expectations, the silence, the costs, no one checks if your back's broken. Later, alone in my apartment, I lit one candle, just one. The room smelled like sandalwood and lemon, like I'd cleaned but hadn't lived. I opened my journaling app, typed, "They only remember who shows up, not who made it possible." I sat for a while, then quietly I whispered, "What happens when I don't?" By the time I reached Wincliffe Estate, the air had already begun to thicken with late spring heat. The landscapers were adjusting the hydrangeas by the fountain, and inside the reception tent, someone was testing the lighting sequence. Blush to amber to gold, like a champagne flute trying to convince you it was something more than glass. I was there to confirm the floral placements again, even though I had already signed off on the first set of mock-ups last week. Vere called just as I was stepping off the brick path onto the lawn. "Can you take a look at dessert too?" she asked, like she was offering me gum. The lemon tarts came out too tart. Apparently, Zanea's mom is worried it'll ruin the vibe. I didn't answer right away. Instead, I watched a caterer unload crates marked fragile from a truck. "Sure," I finally said. "I'll handle it." "That's my girl," Evelyn Bennett said. "All sugar." 5 minutes later, a woman in a pressed polo shirt approached me and asked if I was the lead planner. "No," I said without correcting her. I didn't have the energy. That was the 6th time this week someone assumed I was on payroll. When I got home, an email pinged. I almost ignored it until I saw the subject line, "Updates to roles, please confirm." I clicked. It was a thread between Vera, the planner, and someone from the event production team. I'd been BCC clearly by mistake. In it, Evelyn Bennett had written, "Let's not include Laurel in any speech segments or major acknowledgments. She prefers staying behind the scenes." My fingers froze on the keyboard. That wasn't just an oversight. That was an eraser with a smile. I forwarded the thread to myself, labeling it "Confirmation of Eraser." Then I sat still for a moment, as if the apartment needed to catch its breath with me. The next morning, the planner sent over the latest draft of the event program. The section titled, "A Family's New Beginning," now read, "Madison Cole brought new joy to our family. She is the daughter we always dreamed of." There it was, the punch that didn't leave a bruise. My name was nowhere in the 4-page document. Again, I didn't reply. I simply dragged the file into a folder titled, "Edits Without Me," PDF. Even my absence had a script. That same afternoon, I met Nathan Bennett at a small cafe off Main Street. He waved from a corner booth, already sipping a cold brew. I slid into the seat across from him and pulled out my own notes. Nothing dramatic, just a printed list of current costs and outstanding B. Benjamin Scottses. "I think we should talk about trimming a few things," I began. "The fairy light canopy is an extra $7,000, and that's not counting the backup generator rental." Nathan Bennett blinked. "Madison Cole really loves those lights. She says it gives the place a magic hour look. And Mom thinks it's worth it." He shrugged. "Yeah, I mean, it's once in a lifetime." I looked at him calm. "You do realize I've already put in over 35 grand, right?" He blinked again. "Well, yeah, but it's all family asked, you know that." I smiled, but it didn't reach anywhere. Funny how family always means me giving. He laughed awkward and low, then stared into his coffee like the answer might float to the surface. That evening, the planner followed up. The program line had been changed. The sentence now read, "Madison Cole brought light to our family like someone who was always meant to be here. No dream anymore, just like family." Still no mention of me. I didn't reply, just added it to the archive. 2 days later, I returned to the estate for another site walkthrough. The planner was reviewing chair layouts near the ceremony aisle. I wore jeans and a button-down shirt. Professional, simple, no-name badge. A guest, middle-aged and polite, smiled at me and asked if I could bring out a few more chairs for the older guests near the tree line. I said, "Of course," and walked away. If I scream now, they'll say I ruined it. If I stay quiet, they'll say I helped. Back home that night, I opened my journal, typed without pause. They've rewritten my presence, but I haven't erased myself. Then I began a letter addressed to Vera, Nathan Bennett, and Zanea. It was calm, direct, not angry, just final. The last line read, "I'm not your checkbook. I'm your consequence." I stared at it and deleted the whole thing. Then I opened a new message, this one to Rebecca Foster, my lawyer. Subject, Event Trust Consultation Request. I wrote, "Let's talk Monday. I need to understand what rights I have over the Event Trust account." I hit send, then leaned back and whispered, "Let's see how they rewrite that." We met at a cafe that used to be a bookstore, the kind of place with uneven tables and oversized mugs where people pretend they're too busy for small talk. Nathan Bennett was already seated when I walked in. Evelyn Bennett stood beside him, flipping through the wedding folder like it was a menu. Her smile widened when she saw me, rehearsed, transactional. "Hey, sweetie," she said, like we hadn't just exchanged texts that ended in punctuation so sharp you could bleed on it. I ordered a tea, no milk. Evelyn Bennett opened before I sat down. "We've decided to expand the lighting canopy. It'll stretch over the bar and dessert tables now. More coverage, more ambiance. Also, we're adding 2 more bartenders. The line during cocktail hour was going to be unbearable." I blinked. "And you're assuming I approved all of that?" Evelyn Bennett didn't flinch. Nathan Bennett muttered, "Mom thought you wouldn't mind. You always help." There it was again, the default logic that if I hadn't said no, I must have meant yes, that if I didn't object loud enough, it counted as support. I took a slow breath. This is the last invoice I'm covering. From now on, any new charges come from your end. Veer's lips pressed into a line. "Are you really doing this before your brother's big day?" "No," I said. "I'm doing this before I vanished completely." They went quiet. She took out her phone and swiped through to the latest mock-up for the event's LED display. "We finished the credits loop," she said, placing the screen in front of me. It played soft music, floral transitions, and line after line of thank yous, vendors, planners, Benjamin Scott, the wine sponsor, florist, DJ, not me. I stared at it for 5 full seconds, then looked up. Nathan Bennett smiled sheepishly. "It's more about the vibe than literal credits." That was the moment I stopped being surprised. Later that evening, after I'd walked a few blocks in silence just to think, I booked a hotel room for the wedding night, something clean and distant. I wasn't staying at the family home. Not anymore. Sometimes distance is the only way to breathe again. I thought I'd earned that much. By the time I returned home, I had a text from Evelyn Bennett. "Waiting. You know," she wrote, "some families wouldn't even invite someone like you." Then another, "You should be grateful you're included at all." I didn't respond. I just forwarded both texts into the folder labeled Family Logic, Emotional Accounting. I didn't even rename the screenshots. I didn't need to. That night, I called Rebecca Foster. She answered with the same crisp calm that always gave me confidence. "The trust account is still under your control," she confirmed. "Do you want to freeze discretionary disbursements?" "Yes." "You know that once we file this, there's no walking it back without consequences." I leaned against the kitchen counter. The hum of the fridge filled the pause. "That's the goal, Rebecca Foster. I don't plan to walk back anything ever again." And that was that. I went for a walk near the river. Tarrytown streets were mostly empty at that hour. Shop windows glowed in that sleepy way small towns do, like they're half awake even when they're closed. The water was dark and flat, the sky heavier than usual. I walked slowly. What they call betrayal, I thought, is just me finally choosing myself. I got back home midnight. No ceremony, no announcement. I simply opened the family group chat, held my thumb on the thread and tapped delete. No message, just gone. As I lay in bed, my phone buzzed again. An email. Subject, urgent. Final credits for print tonight. It was from the wedding planner. I clicked it open. Still no mention of me. The morning started with a ring I almost ignored. My phone buzzed on the kitchen counter while I stirred coffee, the bitter aroma curling up into the silence. I didn't check the caller ID right away, but then it rang again. It was Kayla, the wedding planner. She never called twice. "Hi, Astria." Her voice cracked slightly, breath short. "Sorry to bother you so early, but we've got a bit of a situation." I didn't answer. Not yet. The caterer's payment didn't clear. They're asking for reconfirmation, and the venue just flagged the outstanding Benjamin Scott. I thought maybe a card expired. "No," I said calmly, almost too calmly. "Have them email me directly. I'll sort it out." I hung up before she could reply. They thought I'd keep paying in silence. They forgot silence can also be withdrawal. Before lunch, Rebecca Foster called back. "The freeze is official," she confirmed. "No additional disbursements will go out unless you sign them off, and if anyone tries to dispute it, the documentation protects you." "What about optics?" I asked. "This is the part where people stop calling you nice," she replied. I smiled without humor. "That part started weeks ago. Mid-afternoon, I got the call I knew was coming. Nathan Bennett's name flashed across the screen. I let it ring twice before answering. "Hey," asked. His voice was tight, rushed. "Did you know Mom told Madison Cole that they're giving us the apartment? The one near the river?" I stayed quiet for half a second. "The apartment that's in my name?" I asked, voice flat. He hesitated. I thought it was—" I didn't know. "Mom said you didn't care about it." "That's not hers to give, Nathan Bennett. She said you never wanted it." I let the silence linger just long enough to cut. Wanting silence isn't the same as surrender. I opened my files. The trust document sat in the folder I hadn't touched in months. Everything in legal order, my name squarely at the top. Rebecca Foster had already filed the block on unauthorized transfer, just in case. That night, I asked Evelyn Bennett to meet at the little library cafe we'd once loved. She showed up wearing oversized sunglasses like she was shielding herself from something other than the sun. "It was meant as a gesture," she said before I sat down. "A way to honor you. You never cared about that place." "No," I said, placing a folder on the table. "I cared about not being lied to." She adjusted her scarf, lips tightening, asked, "Don't make this bigger than it is." "I didn't. You did." She opened the folder, skimmed the updated trust agreement, and notarized block. "You had this ready." "I've learned to prepare for outcomes you never believe I'll act on." Back home, I opened my email to find one from Kayla, accidentally forwarded from the planning thread. Subject line, "Contributor visibility." The thread opened with Vere's words. "Let's omit Laurel's name from the visible donor list. She prefers low profile." My name scrubbed on purpose. It wasn't an oversight, it was a strategy. That night, I didn't cry, I didn't call, I didn't even rant into the walls like I used to when I was 25 and still believed being the bigger person made you taller. I just opened my journal and typed, "This isn't vengeance, this is archiving reality." I began moving documents into a new folder. If they ever lie again, I didn't raise my voice. I just raised the bar for how I'll be treated. At 9:47 p.m., my phone buzzed with a text from Zanea. "Hey Astria, heard there's a glitch with the payments. Nathan Bennett's freaking out." Another text 3 minutes later. "Please don't ruin our day over a misunderstanding." I stared at the screen. Did they really believe it was all just a misunderstanding? I whispered to no one in particular. "It's already ruined, you just never noticed." The group chat lit up before I even made it to my second cup of coffee. First came Nathan Bennett's message, all passive-aggressive sunshine. "Timing's everything," asked, "and yours sucks." Then, "Family is about showing up when it counts, not freezing funds the week before a wedding." I didn't respond. Next was Vera. "Of course, this isn't how I raised you," she wrote, as if she hadn't spent a lifetime raising me to say yes until it broke skin. I stared at the screen, then did what I'd been doing a lot lately. I opened my screenshot tool and saved everything. I created a new folder, Damage Control. Later that morning, I revisited one of Kayla's forwarded threads. I'd glossed over it when it first hit my inbox. This time, I read every line slowly. "Let's not give Laurel visibility," Evelyn Bennett had written. "She gets uncomfortable. She'll prefer it this way." I didn't even flinch. They didn't forget me. They deleted me. The brunch invite from my cousin Chloe Parker had arrived days ago. Casual. Bring whoever, no pressure. I should have declined, but curiosity has its own gravity. When I walked into the sunroom, Evelyn Bennett was already there. So was Zinea, her pastel outfit perfectly curated for candids. And next to Vera, Liam Walker. Still single, still charming, still the exact wrong kind of echo. Vera's voice sang across the room. "Look who's here! Still got that smile, huh?" She nudged Liam Walker's arm like she was introducing a prom date. Madison Cole giggled into her mimosa. Nathan Bennett didn't meet my eyes. I walked over slowly, smiled, and kissed the air near Vera's cheek. Then I looked at Liam Walker. He looked surprised, maybe even regretful, but he held the glass steady. "Hi, Astria," he said. "Hi, Liam Walker." I poured myself coffee and found a corner seat, the same ones I always get, the ones nobody notices you in. An hour later, as people filtered into the garden, Liam Walker slid beside me on the patio bench. Quiet, familiar. "I didn't know you'd be here," he said. "Likewise. Your mom?" She reached out. I turned to him. "She thought maybe we could—" He stopped. I thought it was weird. Now I know it was cruel. He looked at me. "I'm sorry," he said, "for being part of her show." I nodded just once. Later that day, I stopped by the estate to grab some of the centerpiece lanterns I'd paid for. Madison Cole was there with her maid of honor, arranging table numbers. She spotted me, eyes narrowing. "You really froze the account?" she asked, not even waiting for hello. "Nathan Bennett is panicking." I didn't change expression. Then he should have checked with the actual owner of the trust. "You're ruining everything," she said, the edges of her voice catching. "No," I said calmly, turning toward the exit. "I'm just no longer underwriting the lie." That night, Evelyn Bennett hosted what she called a reset dinner, code for gather and rewrite. I wasn't invited, but families talk. A cousin recorded it, sent it to me without comment. Vere's voice came through syrupy and firm. "Let her sit in her drama. This is about love." "We're moving on." I named the audio file. "Rewrite the narrative." The next morning, I got an email from my younger cousin, Noah Bennett, who was working on the wedding slideshow. He'd accidentally forwarded me a draft of the thank you cards at the bottom. "Thanks to all who made this day magical, excluding those who made it messy." I stared at the sentence, reread it twice, and then printed it on heavy cardstock. I laid it on my kitchen table next to the email thread about the floral deposit, the screenshot of the trust freeze, and the RSVP list where my name was marked optional. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I simply opened my legal dashboard, scanned the last updates, then closed it. They would hear me in the silence. That evening, my phone lit up again. Email subject, final. Benjamin Scott. See unpaid. Escalation notice pending. I smiled, typed slowly. Please redirect all further communication to my attorney. The sun dipped behind the estate just as I stepped out of the car, my soft gray dress catching the last warm gold of the afternoon. Wincliffe was already glowing. Fairy lights strung between oak limbs, champagne flutes, and manicured hands. The gentle strain of a string quartet weaving through the air like a well-practiced lie. No one looked up when I arrived. I walked the gravel path, careful with my steps, as if each one would echo louder than I intended. The scent of roses and overripe grapes filled the air. A waiter offered me a drink. I nodded, took a glass, and positioned myself near the back corner of the tent. No one approached. Not Nathan Bennett, not Vera, not Xenia. I was both guest and ghost. The ceremony started just after dusk. Chairs turned toward the arbor, framed in blush silk and hydrangeas. Madison Cole floated down the aisle like she was stepping out of a bridal catalog. Nathan Bennett waited, his smile soft and performative. Vows were exchanged, applause thundered politely. Evelyn Bennett dabbed at her eyes with a monogrammed napkin like she had tears to spare. I clapped once, then rested my hands in my lap. My face didn't move. My thoughts did. They always clap for stories that don't cost them anything. After dinner, the toasts began. I wasn't on the list. Evelyn Bennett took the mic first, her posture regal with just the right touch of wine-fueled nostalgia. To love, to legacy, she said, glass raised, and a family that shows up. The crowd murmured in agreement. Then she glanced around, eyes sparkling. Of course, not everyone has a +1. Some of us, she paused for effect, grinning wide, are single, childless, and still too busy to settle down. The chuckles started in waves. But hey, she added, turning squarely toward my table. She's not married, no kids, but she's always good for a check. Laughter erupted, loud, full-bodied. Nathan Bennett laughed. Madison Cole looked down but didn't stop smiling. Someone actually clapped. I didn't move. One of my aunts shifted awkwardly in her chair. No one else did. No one said anything. Evelyn Bennett handed the mic to the DJ like she just delivered a heartfelt blessing. The room swallowed it whole. I stood up. I didn't rush. I didn't push my chair out with a dramatic scrape. I walked calmly toward the DJ booth. A few people noticed. Most kept drinking. The DJ looked startled when I asked for the mic. He hesitated, then handed it to me. Silence spread like oil. I held the mic in both hands and looked at no one in particular. She's right, I said. I'm not married. I don't have children. Pause. And yes, I do write the checks. A few people tensed. But as of today, I said evenly, the $96,000 that made this night possible. Frozen. Gone. Gasps. One glass fell and shattered. No one laughed. No one clapped. I handed the mic back, turned, walked out. No one followed. Outside, the air felt colder, sharper. I inhaled deeply, not because I needed air, but because I needed proof that I was still here. My phone buzzed. It was Rebecca Foster. "Venue just called. Want me to speak on your behalf?" "Already did," I typed back. Then I put the phone away and kept walking toward the gate, heels crunching on the gravel with steady rhythm. The parking lot came into view. My car sat beneath a flickering lamp, the only thing blinking in the darkness. I reached it, hand on the door handle, when someone grabbed my elbow gently from behind. "Astria, wait." Nathan Bennett. He was slightly out of breath, jacket unbuttoned, face flushed. "You don't understand," he said, voice urgent. I turned toward him, the soft exterior gone from my expression. "No, Nathan Bennett," I said, voice cool and calm. "You don't." The sun punched through the hotel blinds like it was checking if I still existed. I opened one eye and stared at the digital clock on the nightstand. 6:42 a.m. I hadn't slept more than a few hours, but my body didn't care. It had been trained to function through worse. I sat up, swung my legs over the edge of the bed, and reached for my phone. 27 missed messages. I didn't need to read them. Just seeing the list. Nathan Bennett, Vera, Zanea, Mom, Cell, Family Group was enough. I opened the first voicemail. Vera's voice, trembling but not apologizing. "You've gone too far, Astria. I don't know what you were trying to prove, but you embarrassed all of us, especially yourself." Delete. The next was Nathan Bennett, short, cold, detached. "I hope you're happy." Delete. "No, we're sorry. No, we didn't know. Just blame as usual." I got out of bed, patted across the carpet, and poured a glass of water. I didn't feel regret, just a strange, humming clarity. An hour later, a text popped up. "Zanea, I didn't know your mom would say that. It wasn't meant that way." I stared at it for a moment, then typed back, "It was meant exactly that way." She never replied. Rebecca Foster called around noon. "Then you officially issued a breach of contract notice," she said. "Nathan Bennett and Evelyn Bennett are the named parties. Since your trust was legally separated weeks ago, you're clean. Also, planner forwarded the invoice to Zenaya's parents. I laughed once, short and dry. It's amazing, I said, how fast people stop pretending when the bills come due. Rebecca Foster chuckled softly. Exactly. That afternoon, I got a message from my cousin Emily. No words, just a video clip. The preview frame showed the catering tent. I pressed play. It was Vera's voice off camera, laughing with two vendors. Laurel, she said, breezy and amused. She's just our walking wallet, reliable as a direct deposit. The vendor chuckled. The other one said, well, every family's got one. The video ended there. I stared at the screen for a full minute. I didn't respond, didn't forward it, didn't post it, but I saved it. Later that evening, I was folding laundry when someone knocked at my door. 3 soft knocks. Nathan Bennett. He looked like he hadn't slept, hair a mess, eyes red. He didn't speak right away. Finally, he said, Madison Koleft, said she needed space. I waited. Everything's unraveling, he added. Still, I waited. She said the wedding never felt like hers. Said Mom took over. Said, I let it happen. He paused. We didn't think you'd walk away. You've always picked up the pieces. I looked at him, not with anger, but with something colder, wiser. Maybe because no one else ever learned how. He opened his mouth, then closed it. There was nothing left to say. He left. That night, my phone lit up again. A voicemail from Vera. Her voice was clipped, brittle, like someone trying to sound composed while holding their jaw shut. This is what happens when family turns on each other. I hope it was worth it. I forwarded the voicemail to Rebecca Foster. No subject, just a note. If this escalates, this tone matters. I grabbed my keys, slipped on my jacket, and got in the car. I didn't have a destination. I just drove. At some point, I found myself passing the house, the one we used to co-own, the one she tried to give away like it was a party favor. The porch light was off. For the first time, it didn't sting. It wasn't my house anymore. It was never my home. I sat in the car for a minute, then turned the key. As I pulled away, my phone vibrated, a message from Rebecca Foster. Ready to move forward when you are? Rebecca Foster's voice on the phone was cool, measured. The venue escalated to collections this morning. She said, it's official now. Nathan Bennett's name is on the breach notices, not yours. I stood at my kitchen window, coffee untouched in my hand. They finally see who's actually responsible, she added. I gave a quiet laugh, more breath than sound. Funny how that happens when I remove the scaffolding. That afternoon, I received a call from a number I didn't recognize. I let it ring twice before answering. Hello, this is Nancy, Zenaya's mother, the voice said, overly polite, clipped at the edges. I just wanted to check in. There's been some confusion about the finances. I didn't interrupt. Let her talk. We were told that this was a gift from you. I walked to the dining table, opened the folder still sitting there, and pulled out the original agreement. Conditional contribution, I read aloud, not unconditional surrender. Silence. I thanked her for calling and hung up. Clarity tastes better than apology. By evening, Rebecca Foster had already sent out the official email to all parties. Subject line, Summary of Misrepresentation and Reallocation of Debt Liability. No fluff, no filler, just facts. Within 20 minutes, Nathan Bennett texted me, You've humiliated her. I opened the message, stared at it, typed out, No. I just stopped covering for her, then deleted it before hitting send. The next morning, I took control of the narrative. I drafted a short, clear message to each vendor, the planner, caterer, lighting company, florist, thanked them for their professionalism, clarified that my financial involvement had concluded. All future inquiries must be directed to the bride's family. I attached a signed statement, hit send. Power doesn't always roar. Sometimes it signs and walks away. That same day, Rebecca Foster called again. We found something else, she said. Apparently, Evelyn Bennett had attempted to push through a duplicate contract via a notary she knew. The draft falsely transferred the Yoner's property to Nathan Bennett and Zanea, listed as a wedding gift. Rebecca Foster had already frozen the transfer and filed a preventive claim. It was never about the property, I told her. It was about who they assumed I wouldn't fight. Later, I went to the boxing gym. I didn't wear headphones. I didn't need music, just breath and gloves. Each jab landed cleaner than the last, not because I wanted to hurt something, but because I needed to feel what it meant to stand in my own power. No negotiations, no explanations. I didn't need revenge, I needed release. And now I was here. That night, I received a message from Diane Carter. Short, honest. I saw the video. I'm sorry. I should have said something. No excuses, no deflection, just truth. I stared at the text for a long time, then exhaled. One voice is enough when it's real. I thought the day was done, but then another notification popped up. Subject: Bridal website review flagged for removal. I clicked. The review in question, a guest thanking me by name. One sentence: this wedding wouldn't have happened without Claire Bennett Carradine, the only public credit I'd received. I reactivated my account, copied the review, and posted it to my own feed. Caption: in case anyone tries to delete the truth again, I didn't knock. I didn't text ahead. I used my key one last time. The Yonkers apartment still smelled faintly of lemon cleaner and old carpet. The air was hollow. Whoever had been staying here after Vera's little gift stunt clearly hadn't made it home in a while. I walked through like a visitor, not a former co-owner, not even a tenant, just someone reclaiming what was left. There were a few books still stacked in the hallway closet, ones I had boxed for donation months ago. A white porcelain lamp I bought when I first moved in before the trust papers, before the silence. I unplugged it slowly, coiled the cord, and set it gently in the tote I brought with me. At the mailbox in the lobby, my name was still taped on the front, slanted and half-peeled from humidity. I took a corner and lifted it off carefully like skin from sunburn. I didn't flinch. Later that day, Rebecca Foster texted to confirm what we already knew. All contracts closed, trust dissolved, everything is clean. No inheritance disputes, no pending debt transfers. It was done. They no longer owe me anything. I texted her back, and I no longer owe them silence. Evelyn Bennett sent me a message 2 days later. No greeting, no warmth. We'll handle things on our end. I hope you find peace. It sat in my inbox for hours before I opened it. No apology, just distance disguised as closure. I didn't reply. I didn't feel anger. Just a strange, floating lightness, like I'd been carrying a lead backpack I hadn't noticed until I put it down. Some silences don't hurt. They just echo. Nathan Bennett's message came late that night. It was longer than I expected. I don't know what we became, he wrote, but I don't think it was supposed to go this way. I read it twice. He sounded like a man watching a bridge burn from the other side, unsure when the fire had started. One line stuck out. You were always stronger than us. That part I highlighted. The rest I deleted. Back at the office the next day, I arrived earlier than usual. My assistant had already placed the new frame on my desk, the one I ordered last week. Inside was a black and white photo of my first office lease, the one I signed by myself with a trembling hand and $27 left in my checking account. Below it, a small brass plaque read, "Built, not gifted." Mid-morning, a colleague paused in the doorway and pointed to it. "What's that about?" she asked. I smiled, not too wide. Everything. That afternoon, I sat at my desk, opened the shared family folder, and pressed delete. No ceremony, no drama, just a click. I kept one backup on a tiny silver USB that lived in the back of my bottom drawer. I labeled it in black Sharpie, memory, not leverage. I left the office early, not because I needed to, but because I could. The sun was still high when I got home. As I turned the key in the door, I noticed a small brown box leaning against the step. No return address. Inside, a photo album, older than I remembered, corners slightly frayed. The last page held a photo of me and Vera. I was maybe 7, wearing a crooked paper crown, her arms around me in a loose hug, both of us blurry mid-laugh. A yellow post-it note was stuck to the corner. "You were always worth seeing." I just couldn't look. I didn't cry. I didn't open the rest of the book. I slid it onto the shelf, spine out but unopened. I posted it at 9:17 a.m. sharp. Not to Instagram, not to Facebook, LinkedIn, the platform of polite claps and buttoned-up successes, the place where people talk about resilience like it's a buzzword instead of a survival tactic. I didn't name names. I didn't have to. I wrote, "For a decade I was the dependable one, the fixer, the wallet. I paid the bills no one wanted to talk about, covered the mistakes no one wanted to own, and swallowed silence so others could save face. When you're the one who never needs anything, they start to believe you don't feel anything either." Within 3 hours, it had over 1,000 likes, comments from strangers who sounded like versions of me. I see you. This was my life too. Family extraction under the guise of duty. We don't talk about it enough. By lunch, it had gone semi-viral inside the logistics and finance world. Colleagues forwarded it with quiet respect. A vendor I barely remembered wrote, "I wish I'd known. You handled it all with such grace." That evening, I stood on stage at a leadership summit in Boston. Topic: Invisible labor and the price of silence. I wore black, not out of mourning but clarity. I spoke about women like me, about dignity mistaken for detachment, about generosity turned into expectation. My final line? "I used to think giving meant I mattered. Now I give to things that give back." The audience rose to their feet before I could set the mic down. 2 days later, I mailed a package to Vera. Inside, a check. Blank, voided, shredded into vertical strips and taped back together, framed behind glass. A note attached. "Here's the last one. It won't bounce, but I will." I never heard back. The bridal website didn't last long after that. An anonymous guest uploaded a testimonial video, receipts, screen recordings, audio of Vera's walking wallet comment. No narration, no names, just evidence. Caption: "Truth costs nothing, but hiding it? That invoice just arrived." Within 12 hours, the site was locked for violation of terms. But not before half the family downloaded the clip twice. Vera's circle reacted the way tight-knit communities always do, quietly, firmly, completely. The leadership group she once chaired sent her a letter rescinding her honorary board seat. Her name vanished from the quarterly newsletter. A few neighbors stopped waving. The pastor of her church prayed for peace in private. She didn't apologize. She didn't fight it. She just went quiet. She chose silence, too, just not for the same reason. That weekend, I drove north toward Hudson, past the turnpike, past the memory-heavy exits, into something that felt wider. I parked on a grassy lot I'd just closed on. It wasn't large, just a few acres with good drainage and a clear line of trees, but it was mine. The plan was simple: a retreat center for women who carried too much for too long. No speeches, no gratitude expected, just space. I slipped off my shoes and stood barefoot in the soil. It was damp, firm, real. "They took my name off the program," I whispered, so I printed my own. That night, back home, I saw the message. "Nathan Bennett, I read your post. We were wrong. I don't expect anything back, just thank you for surviving us." I stared at it for a moment, then deleted it. Not out of anger, just because I didn't need it anymore. You can keep your name off their lips and still never be forgotten.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's story. I truly appreciate your comments, feedback, and thoughts. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. See you again in the next stories.